Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Sherrika Sanders is the founder of Transform the GAAP. That's Goals Assigned Achieving Purpose, where she leverages over 15 years of corporate accounting experience to empower accounting teams and overlooked women in the profession to transition from stagnation to strategic growth. By helping clients realign with their values, beliefs, and goals, Sherrika equips them with the skills and confidence needed to thrive in any professional setting. Her passion lies in guiding accountants through significant organizational changes, helping them overcome obstacles and achieve career advancements with clarity and purpose. Amazing,
Yes.
Sherrika. Thank you so much for being on my show today. And I'm finally happy we get to meet. I think we were trying to book this like 6 months ago.
Yes.
So I,
Same. Glad to
yeah.
be here. Thank you.
Of course. And let's just go ahead and have you start sharing your personal journey. Can you actually go ahead and share your journey and the challenges that actually led you to say, you know what, enough is enough, and
Yes,
then change your professional situation?
absolutely. So my background is in corporate accounting, and anyone who's familiar with accounting and finance, the term in my company name, Transform the GAAP, and GAAP is GAAP. GAAP is a very well-known accounting term. It means generally accepted accounting principles. And so anybody in that space sees that name and they're like, I don't know what she does, but it's something in that space. But so it's a nod to that accounting career. And while spending those 15 plus years in accounting, I progressed a lot. Um, I had a career full of growth and opportunities and raises and promotions and all the things, but they came with some significant sacrifices. Sacrifices to my physical health, sacrifices to my mental well-being, being the only one that looked like me in the room, and me as in not just female or not just black, but as a black female, and and having to see how conversations would shift, like being in the room with other, with the other executives and hearing them say things like, "Oh, Shrika, I like rap music. Who's your favorite rapper?" I don't. Why is it assumed that I like rap music? Or, or I remember having someone say to me once, and it's so crazy. This is somebody that I reported to. He walks in my office one day and he's like, it's going to be harder for you being a black woman in this industry than it is for other people. So you're going to have to make sure you do, all of these extra things. And I'm like, but you're the one who I'm reporting to. And you're already telling me that you're putting a stigma on me as a black woman when you don't have to. You see the work that I do. I've earned it. And that was a thing. My career was filled with working with people who felt like they were giving me opportunities versus I'm working for everything that I have. And oftentimes having to work a lot harder than other people to get the same thing. And first, I was with an organization, and I'm like, you know what? It's off. Something is off. And I'm like, it's just time for me to go. At that particular point, I've been with that company for, I think, about 6 years. And I'm like, it's just time to go. So I went to a different company and great people, great team. But what I realized is that it no longer fulfilled me. I was great at my job, but it was no longer fulfilling for me. And the part of it that did fulfill me was working with the other people, working with the team, helping them to find out what it is they wanted to do with their careers, helping them to understand how they needed to advance and how they needed to grow. And I'm very spiritual. And so I went on a fast and I'm like, Lord, during this time, I really need for you to help me figure out what I'm supposed to be doing because I don't think it's another company. And it was entrepreneurship. And I was like, ugh. He must have, God must be talking to somebody else. I think he got something confused because I would never. But that was the route for me. And so that's how my company came to be and Transform the Gap again, because it's a nod to that background. But now I take what I've learned, I take those years where I wasn't speaking up for myself and how I made that shift and transition to learn how to start speaking up for myself. Well, how I made the shift and transition to understand that I held value. And I was in the rooms because I deserved to be there, not because somebody had, given me a special pass. And just understanding all of those things, how to say no, that it was okay to say no, that it was okay to make my family a priority and not, make the business my number one priority. And so taking all of those things and helping people who are still in that space, specifically women, uh, overcome and get to their next level, but without that guilt, without that burnout, and just truly align their faith, their family, and their careers.
Yes. And I've experienced the same thing as you have, where, you just ask the Lord, like, guide me. What do I need to do next? And then all of a
Yes.
sudden you get this huge opportunity. Then you're like, whoa, I don't know if I'm ready for this just yet. What is going on? You must see my potential more than I can see, obviously.
Yes. Yes.
The Lord does.
Yes. Hmm.
And so, yes, and that's when we just have to go for it, because if the Lord says yes, you just got to do it.
Right. Right. And that's so true.
Yes, because I remember for many years I used to work in like corporate America, and actually I
Hmm.
still do now. Technically, I still work for the Four Seasons hotel. I work as a massage therapist, and I've been there for over 17 years. But I've limited my working day to only one because of the entrepreneurship and what I'm
Yeah.
doing now. And plus, I'm mom and wife and all that
Yes.
good stuff. So
Yes.
yes, I remember getting burnt out. I was working about 5 days a week and doing 6 hours a day, and like that's 6 hours of massage almost. I
That's a
was
lot.
tired. So I know how us professionals can be burnt out.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Hmm.
so in your opinion, how can professionals go ahead and recognize the signs of burnout before it takes a significant role on their health and their career?
I think that's a great question. And I think it's about setting boundaries. And a lot of times when we think about boundaries, we think about setting boundaries for other people, but we need to set boundaries for ourselves. What are those things that we are going to say no to? Because it's not always about what I'm agreeing to. Sometimes it's that growth comes in what you will say no to. So, what are these things? What are my non-negotiables? Is that, and if we don't have any, we should establish those. So, it could be, whether I'm at home or whatever, I'm not working after this hour. It could be I don't work on Sundays, or it could be I'm taking the email off of the work email off of my personal phone. There are boundaries that we can set. And oftentimes we are so accustomed to being available and always being ready. And we feel like it's job security. Like if we tell them no, if we're not available to answer that call or answer that email when they send it at 10 o'clock on Friday night, that's going to impact my employment. No, it's not. It's setting those boundaries. And if not answering that email or that phone call at 10 o'clock on a Friday night is impacting to your employment, then you're not with the right company. So that should be a sign right there. But it's putting that value on ourselves and making sure that we're taking the time, because we can't be good for anybody else, our family, our friends, our careers, even if we don't take that time to self-care. And so the biggest thing I would say is setting those boundaries and then having the discipline to stick with it. Having the discipline, because you can set them and then say, oh, well, this is just a one-off. Oh, well, they really need this. Well, this is an emergency. No, set the boundaries and then have the discipline to stick with that, knowing that
Yeah.
as long as you're making that a priority, God will continue to bless that thing. Um, so that would be it.
Yes, because my mindset coach back in the day was like, no wishy-washy. You make a decision and you stick with it. So if it is a
Yes.
no, it is a no. Because I
Yes.
used to be people pleaser, where I would be like, oh, well, what are they gonna think of me if I say no? Or
Hmm.
I wanna make sure they're happy. I was a massive people pleaser.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now that I've learned to say no, it really opens up the doors for me to say yes to something else that aligns to what
Yes.
I'm supposed to be doing, not what they want
Yes.
me to do, but what I'm supposed to be doing, because we are
Absolutely.
our own cheerleaders, I would say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes. And so this is
Hmm.
what my husband is going through right now. I know he's a male, but he's going through the same thing too,
Yeah.
where at work he was always saying yes, 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 and then he was getting burnt out and he finally started saying no. And I was like, I am so proud of you. And because they need him. I'm like,
Yes.
you made yourself irreplaceable at that point.
Hmm.
I really think so, because they're always saying, "Oh, Victor, you're getting good
Yep.
recognition." Right now, he's waiting for
Yep.
his management position, so he's just been praying on that for a while. I said, "You will get it when the time aligns,
Mm-hmm.
when it'll
Mm-hmm.
happen. It'll
Yes.
happen." Because I told him a long time ago when we first met, I asked him, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a process engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer." I said, "Oh, that's so awesome." I said, I see you as a manager." And he's like, "Oh, no, I am not that. Oh, no way." This is about five
Amazing.
years ago. And now he sees it for himself finally.
Amazing.
And now he's ready to to take on that position. So I'm just rooting him on. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And kudos to both of you. Because there's nothing like having that support. And like you just said earlier, we were saying it for God, but other people who see that potential in you that you don't even see in yourselves a lot of times. So kudos to you and congratulations to him in advance.
Thank you. He's gonna get it. I know so.
I
Now,
believe it too.
Shrika, yeah. How do you actually guide clients to align with their values, their beliefs, and professional goals to thrive in corporate environments?
Yeah, so one of the first things we start off with is looking at our goals. And we look at that because how do you know where you're going if you don't have a plan? So it's putting that plan together. What are those things that you really want to do? What are those things that you desire? And the first thing I always tell my clients is, and if your goal seems attainable, meaning it doesn't scare you or it doesn't require some additional resources, then it's not big enough. So it's about writing those goals that scare you and then writing that big goal. And then we go backwards. And what are the small steps that it will take to get to that big goal, that larger goal? And the reason we do it that way is because then we have some mini celebrations, some things that help keep us committed to that task because, oh, well, I haven't reached this yet, then I still have done these things. And it also, if it takes you a little bit longer, knowing that you're still making progress, it gives you something to track. And so that's a major one. But we look a lot at the inside. So showing them how to speak up for themselves because there's a way to do that. And it's not just about to advocate for themselves. And it's not just about saying, no, I don't like it, but a way to say it so that you're heard and making sure that you're holding your manager accountable. So if you're saying, hey, you know what? I've done all of these things and I think it's time for that promotion, and they tell you no, that's fine. Let's go to plan B. And these are the things that we're going to ask. Okay, well, then let's work together to set up so that when we have this conversation again in 6 months, I will have accomplished these things. We're on the same page. And now it's not whether or not I get the position, but, the salary and all of those things. So, showing them how to advocate for themselves, but getting over imposter syndrome. So, it's so many different things that we do to limit ourselves. And as I work with them on the inside and understanding how to break out of these cages, so called, that they've put themselves in and these restrictive mindsets that we all deal with, then they are now able to see, oh, wait a minute, I do deserve that. Oh, wait a minute, I should be going for this, increase, or it is okay for me to go to another company because now I'm in a comfort zone. Even though I'm not happy here, I'm comfortable here. And so I stay here. But you know what? I do need to break out and go to something else. So it's those things that we work on.
Yes. Now, what other advice would you go ahead and give to someone who struggles with self-advocacy? Because I know for myself, I had, and I still do. I probably still will because our feelings come up here and there of imposter
Always.
syndrome.
Yes, always.
Right. And I'm just like, wait, but I
Hmm.
have confidence. But for some reason, I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I can do it yet. But then you're like, no, you got to do it anyway, because that's when you get out of your comfort zone and just
Hmm.
go for the discomfort and then
Hmm.
just do it. And then once you've overcame that, then you're
Yes.
like, okay, what's next? Because then you get excited and you're like, look. And I always tell my clients and I always tell friends and family, look at what you've accomplished, even from your
Yes.
childhood. Like I
Yes.
remember I got track and field awards, I got
Yes.
trophies. My husband and I were, or not me actually, he was him and his father, because his father or his parents are visiting us from India. They were actually going through the garage and organizing it. And then he had seen a box of all my trophies. He's like, I didn't know you had a box of
Who
trophies. I
is
said,
this person?
I didn't know you were an athlete like this. I said, oh yeah, I forgot. Because we forget, we forget, but it's a reminder. But you have to take a look at everything you have
Yes.
accomplished, I always feel. I'm
Yes.
so sorry, but back to my question. It was
No,
how
that was good. And even with that, I feel like imposter syndrome can definitely be a way to keep you humble. That's the way I like to see it now, because you're right, it never goes away, but it's a way to definitely keep you humble and not being overconfident and knowing that, you know what, I'm still, human. But if you have that, it's because you're thinking, well, when I did this, but I did that, but just take away the buts. I did this, period. I did that. I accomplished that. I met that goal. But to answer your question about advocating, it's all about creating a plan. And I think having a plan in place helps you to be prepared for the various responses that you may receive, whether it's yes, I'm not sure, no, even, whatever that answer is. But I teach them how to, one, go ahead and set up that meeting. Sometimes you'll have people, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so, I don't have time. Okay, well, let me grab you 10 minutes real quick. So go ahead and set, but when you go to them with that time, you need to already have your, whether it's your pen and paper or whatever it is, already have it ready, have that conversation ready, have your highlights ready. Um, One of the things I always recommend is adding a kudos folder to your email from those times when you did something and someone said, oh, thank you, or we really appreciate that, or that was a great job. Put all of those things in, because sometimes we need those when we're facing imposter syndrome. And other times to help remind them, like, all of these things that I've done and I did them well, whether they were in or out of my scope of work, these are things that I've done. And this is, my validation for why I'm asking for whatever it is. So have those things ready to go. And then be prepared to say what it is you really want. Go high. If it's an increase, go high and let them bring it lower, but don't start lower. Don't let, oh, well, the budget. And for me being in accounting, I can tell you, I can only think of one time where I've had an increase that I accepted whatever the amount was that they gave me. And I saw the budgets and I saw how out of whack things may have been, but I also know that whenever there was something that the organization needed and wanted, they made a way for it. And because I knew that I was an asset to these organizations, I made it a point to advocate for myself. So I always advocated when, oh, we're gonna, give you this, manager role and this is the salary. I will come back with these are the things that I've accomplished. I would even add in some research from salary.com, and with my whole spiel of this is what I'm advocating for, this is what I'm requesting. And I always got, if not what I want, definitely more than where we started. So aim high. Don't be afraid to aim high and really ask for it for what you want. And maybe if you want, five more, ask for seven so that you can get the five. But
I love that.
be able to say that. And if they say no, then have that plan in place and say, okay, what are the things I need to work on so that we can make this a yes? Because now you're also holding them accountable. And as your manager, as a leader, as anyone in a leadership position within an organization, they should not have any issue being able to help you with that. With when you say, what are the things that I need to work on? What are some things that you suggest? What are some projects that you can give me so that I can show you that I'm ready for what it is that I'm asking for? Or you can even say, oh, it's not in the budget. Well, what about half now? I complete, these two or three things, and in 6 months we revisit again for the other half. So there are so many ways that you can approach it without just taking a no. But that's typically like part of the plan of how we work through that.
Wow, these are really good nuggets. Yes. And I'm going to have my husband listen to, he never listens to my podcast, but I'm going to have him listen to this episode because this is good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you actually just go ahead and share a success story from your organization where you help someone overcome career hurdles and thrive?
Yeah, so I'll go from my last role, when I was in corporate, and I managed a team here in the US as well as a team in Latin America. And there's actually a two-part, one for that was for me and even for them. So the team in Latin America was split. There was most of the team supported the US, and so they could speak English and Spanish. And there was a smaller portion of the team that supported our Latin American process, and they only spoke Spanish. Well, while I have taken way too many years of Spanish not to know it fluently, I don't. And so, and so of course, there was this language barrier there. And the company was paying for those people to take classes to learn English. But one of the things that I did, I said, well, it shouldn't just be on them. So let me start refreshing and get back into learning my Spanish. And so I did that. And so when we would have our meetings, we would have meetings with me and them. And I had one other person to join who was bilingual. So they, whenever we fumbled, they could help us. And in those meetings, they could only speak English to me and I could only speak Spanish to them. And doing that was one, helping us both to get more comfortable. But what they said when I left is they could really appreciate that because it showed them that they mattered and it gave them that, a little bit more comfortability. I'm saying it, I'm messing up the word, but uh, made them more
You said
comfortable.
it just fine.
Right. With being able to speak it and prepare them for other roles, either within the company or outside the company. And so having that, me giving them that vulnerability helped them to um, go for more opportunities. So that was one that was very just good to hear when I left, how much they appreciated that and how much it meant to them because I thought they were probably like, this lady fumbling over everything, just give it, just let it go. But then there was also a person in the office with me here in the US. And when I started the organization, the CFO told me, he's like, this is a troublemaker, you know, you'll probably end up letting him go soon and all of these other things. And so I got in, assessed my team because I wanted to give my own true assessment. And it wasn't that he was just what generation, whatever this is now, Z or I get them all confused, but he's that. And
Yeah.
our CFO was probably a baby boomer. So two completely different just views of how they look at things. And so it was taking time with him, helping them to understand, like, you know, yeah, you can work from home, but this is how we need to communicate to make sure we're on the same page. And from that, he was comfortable enough to start sharing his goals. And I had even set up some interviews with him to meet with other managers to go to other roles because one of the things he realized was that accounting is not for me. I don't think this is it. He's like, I appreciate all the opportunities you've given me to learn so much. And I would even set him up like we started to lunch and learns, and I let him lead because he liked speaking. He liked being out in the forefront. He liked talking to people. And so being creative. And so giving him more opportunities to do that. And he really could appreciate that. And ended up going into doing something more along the lines of what he really enjoyed. But he was like, before that, I kind of felt like I was at a dead end. Nobody listened, nobody cared, nobody supported. Um, and so I think those were two examples from that last place of employment. A lot of them I still keep in touch with. One of them was like, wherever, if you need my help today, I am there.
Oh.
So I think those are two that were really
Some
near and dear to me.
some breakthroughs there for sure. And that's the beauty of things. Like we can try it out, do an experiment, and then if we don't like it or if we don't love it, it's
Yeah.
okay. We'll move
Yeah,
on. We gave it a
absolutely.
shot. We gave it a shot.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And that's really what it's all about. I remember from that, using that same group as an example, our Latin American team would come up once a month and to our office in the US. And I remember one of the ladies telling me that one of the employees in the US office, she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but keep whatever it is up. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, she never used to talk to us. She never would go to lunch with us. She wouldn't share information with us. And she's like, we're seeing a completely different person now. And we know, and it's so crazy because this one person that they were talking about, I was like, all right. here's your challenge, Sherrika. Like this, because this was somebody who had told me outright, I don't know why they brought you in because I'm supposed to have that job.
Oh, wow.
And so to have them now have that perspective and even be able to grow a relationship with her, I was like, wow, there is a God, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Man, miracles can happen at any time.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
So, in your opinion, how can organizations better support women in leadership and management roles?
Oh my gosh. Great. I love that question. So one of the things I've seen many, many times, and something I was even guilty of, like, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I used to be like when I would talk to someone I didn't know, or when I would be in an interview, they would know that I'm married because they would see the ring, but I would never mention my kids, never say anything about it until I was like well into the company and comfortable and all of the things because I didn't want them to judge me. And that's a big one that a lot of organizations do. They see a mom, and finally I got over that. I'm like, this is who I am, and this is what I come with, and take it or leave it. But a lot of organizations like, oh my gosh, she's a mom. And they ask the questions like, oh, how old and things. But what they're really doing after they interview is they're going into a room and they're like, oh, she said one of her children is young. She's probably going to need to be out for appointments. She's probably going to have to take off for this. We don't really know if we can get a full commitment. Stop doing that. Like, stop planning my day and prioritizing my life. Understand that I'm here for a reason. I'm a fully grown adult and understand how to prioritize and when things need to prioritize, and understand also that the company will not always come first. Because just like it's okay for you to not have it always come first, it is okay for me. And it's not just because, oh, she's a mother. So that one is a really big one for moms. And then another one, just for women in general, a lot of guys tend to, and some women even tend to coddle women like, oh, they're, uh, don't say it like that. You may hurt their feelings, or, all of we're considered so full of emotion. With the men, it's passion. It's passion for this. They feel strongly about it, and, and for the women, it's, oh, and you feel like they probably need a hug, and you can't say it like that. And I would even see some of them like talk to people kind of like this, like it's a small child, like, everything okay? And, things like that.
Huh.
We're all grown. I
I'm
I
sorry, I
can,
had that vision in my head. Like, I can see that happening. Yeah, like, are you
yeah,
okay? It's
exactly.
like, are you okay today?
Right. Like that, so demeaning and so just it, defeating and all of these different things, because it's like, who do you think I am? But when you want something done, you're ready to send that work over. You're ready to ask for all those things that you need. But when it comes time to making decisions and having a conversation, I need to be coddled and spoken to with a calm tone. So, just respecting us for who we are, respecting us at whatever level we are, um, and not feeling like support, and understanding that support does not mean that you need to be standing there with a tissue to wipe my tears, but support can also be that you've made a decision for your team, and I will stand by that decision that you've made for your team, knowing that you have trust to be in this role and you understand what it is you need to do. Because one of the things I'm also seeing more so is a lot of women have mentors, but not sponsorship when it comes time to putting the money where the mouth is and speaking up and talking about them better and when they're not in the room, those kind of things. So those are a few other things that I could think of.
Beautiful. Well, I like to do a little segment now. This is something new that I'm doing on my podcast.
Okay.
This is, yeah, and you're the first one to take this on. It's just audience takeaways. So there's three questions here.
Hmm.
What are three actionable tips listeners can go ahead and implement to advocate for themselves and thrive in their careers?
Oh, I like it. Okay. So the first one, I would say there's this saying that I love that says, the opportunity of a lifetime only lasts for the lifetime of the opportunity.
Mm.
So that means stop second guessing, stop doubting yourself, and take advantage of those opportunities and those roles that come your way. Stop counting yourself out before you even start. Because oftentimes, and I used to do this too, like I would only go for the thing that I knew, the guaranteed thing, the thing that I knew I could do, the thing that I knew I could get. And we need to stretch ourselves. How do you become that person you're called to be if you're always in your comfort zone? So that's would be the first one, taking advantage of your opportunities. The second is understand you are enough. And so knowing that you are enough means that it's not, oh, I need to get having education, having additional learning. I'm a forever learner. Always, looking to learn more, grow more, all of the things. But to say, oh, well, they're not gonna I don't have this certification, I don't have this designation. All of these negative self-talk that we give to ourselves, but we don't look at the fact that we just completed this project. We just met this deadline. We were able to step up and lead the team on, on a new task. We have the people right here. We have great working relationships, taking advantage of those things. So understanding, secondly, that you are enough in who you are and own that. And stop feeling like you need to become something else in order to do whatever that thing is. So that would be number two. And then I would say the third one is always advocate for yourself. Understand that your voice matters. And it is okay to speak up for yourself. It is okay to say, I don't like, I'm uncomfortable. Doing this task makes me feel X. When you said, whatever it was, I didn't like it because of this. It's okay to speak up for yourself. Don't feel like you need to be muted, or if you decide to advocate for yourself, that that's your first step on the way out the door. Because any organization that can appreciate an employee that can speak up when they're feeling unheard, when they're feeling unappreciated, when they're feeling mistreated, then that's a cue that that's probably not the place to be. So speak up for yourself, not just professionally, but personally. So that one is a huge one for me.
I love all three. Thank you so much. Now, how can listeners go ahead and shift their mindset from surviving to thriving in their professional journeys?
Give yourself grace. That's the first one. Give yourself grace because wherever you are right now, you did not get there overnight. And so it's not going to turn around for you overnight. So give yourself some grace as you take the steps to start speaking up for yourself because it's going to take courage. People say confidence, but we don't always have the confidence. And courage is what you do when the confidence isn't there. Courage is when you still take those steps, when you still speak up, and your legs may be shaking and your voice trembling when you do it, but you do it anyway. And so having that courage, um, and just giving yourself some grace, knowing that you will, not may, you will make mistakes. You will say or do something that is like, oh crap, how did I do that? Why did I say that? But we are human. We make mistakes. That is what we do. You're not an anomaly. Uh, it is normal. But um, I think that's the biggest piece. Giving yourself grace as you make the decision, make the decision to speak up, make the decision to step up, make the decision to move forward. Because if you're like, I want all of these things, but you're not doing anything, you're just sitting still. For those who are familiar with the Bible, faith without works is dead. You have to do something. And so, what is that thing that you need to do to get to where you want to be?
Oh, yes. And last question. What would you say to someone who feels stuck and doesn't know how to take the first step towards change?
I think for me, I would tell them to look at where do they want to be. And we don't It's going to goals, but it doesn't have to be 5 years from now, 1 year, 6 months. What do you want to be in 6 months? Um, and sometimes they're like, oh, you know what? I don't know. Okay, well then what do you like now? What are those things that you like now that you would like to grow more in or be better at? What are those things? And taking those things, okay, and now that you know what it is you want, those things that you like, those things that you appreciate about where you are now, how can you have developed those? What could they look like for you 6 months from now? And then seeing how it looks 6 months from now. Now let's see what are the small steps that it would take to get to that point within the next 6 months or whatever that time frame is. So it's about that because sometimes we don't always know what it is we want to do. I will honestly say I never thought I would have been in accounting. And I was always great at math. And I remember it was a teacher of mine. I'll say this really quickly. I remember it was my Spanish teacher who was asking me what I was going from high school, asking me what I was going to college for. What did I want to be? And I said psychology. And she, Spanish was her native language, and she didn't speak English quite well or understand it quite well. And I said psychology, and she's like, accounting, that would be so good for you. And I was like, huh, she's probably right. And that was how I even went went that route. So it's okay, if you're like, okay, I'm here now, what? Think about those things that you really like. What are the things that I really like to do, either in this space where I am now or just in life? And then how can I develop that? What would it look like if I was, in my ideal place 6 months from now? It will look like this. Okay, now what are the steps that I can take working backwards to get to that point?
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes you just need those teachers, those mentors. Somebody in your life will just
Yeah.
give you a little light bulb moment
Yeah.
and you think about it like, well, let me
Right.
try that out. That's a good
Right.
idea. We
Yep.
need those people sometimes. So yes, that's awesome. Kudos to
Uh-huh.
your Spanish teacher. That's awesome. Well,
Uh-huh.
Sharika, where can our listeners go ahead and connect with you?
Yes, so my website, Transform the Gap, and that's GAAP, transformthegap.com, as well as LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Sherrika Sanders. I would love to connect. If you have questions, follow up, any of those things, I'm on LinkedIn basically every day. So I would love to connect there and just speak and help however I can.
Beautiful. Any last words or thoughts you'd like to share?
Just you miss all of the opportunities you don't take. So if it's something you're considering, something you're thinking about, something you've been pondering, take a step, whether that's having a conversation, whether that's just doing some research, whatever that step is, talking to your manager, talking to your spouse, take that step because you don't want to be in this same place a year from now wondering what if.
That's right. Words of wisdom from Sharika Sanders, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you so much for being on my show. I feel like I can talk to you forever. May have to have you
Mhm.
come back again.
Yes, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
my pleasure.